Welcome, dear viewers, to Poetry Blows Your Blues Away. Friends, not a single human being under the sun enjoys unalloyed happiness. We are always agitated, anxious, dissatisfied, disappointed, disgruntled, plagued with problems, ridden and riddled with doubts, fears, greed, grief, etc. We call our discontent very fashionably, euphemistically, as divine discontent. As Shelley says in his Ode to a Skylark, we look before and after and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. How true. These days, stress and stress management are the buzzwords. And there is a mushrooming of yoga and meditation centers to address this problem. Herein figures today's poem, The Gifts of God, also titled The Pulley by the metaphysical poet, priest poet George Herbert. Here goes the poem. When God first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by, let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's riches, which dispersed lie, contract into a span. So strength first made a way, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. When almost all was out, God made a stay, perceiving that alone of all his treasure, rest in the bottom lay. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel upon my creature, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he would adore my gifts instead of me and rest in nature, not the God of nature. So both should losers be. Yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness. Let him be rich and weary, that at least, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast. That is the poem. What a wonderfully woven story, what a marvelous fantasy. The poet visualizes the reason behind our restlessness. A splendid vision strikes him, and the result is the poem. Let's come to the first stanza. When God first made man, having a glass of blessings standing by, let us, said he, pour on him all we can. Let the world's riches, which dispersed lie, contract into a span. When God first made man, created the first man, he loved his creation so much that he wished to pour all his blessings upon him. He ordered all world's riches lying scattered to contract into a span, a small space, that is a glass, the glass beside him. He gathered all the riches in the world into a glass and put it beside him and started emptying the glass, pouring blessings upon man, upon humanity, one by one. We come to the second stanza. So strength first made way, then beauty flowed, then wisdom, honor, pleasure. When almost all was out, God made a stay, perceiving that alone of all the treasure, of all his treasure, rest in the bottom lay. First went strength, then flowed beauty, then wisdom, then honor, then pleasure, and so on. All the gifts followed. Then suddenly God stopped. The glass was almost empty. God made a stay and looked into the glass of blessings. What did he see there at the bottom? Only one treasure was left there. It is called rest, R-E-S-T. It was found at the bottom. Rest here means repose, relaxation. It's not physical rest but spiritual rest. We come to the third stanza. For if I should, said he, bestow this jewel also on my creature, he would adore my gifts instead of me, and rest in nature, not the God of nature. So both should losers be. Look at the inversion here, beautiful inversion. So both should losers be. And here he says, God gives a sigh of relief to find rest at the bottom of the glass of blessings. And he says to himself, no, I shouldn't bestow this jewel. Rest too on man. Then he would adore my gifts instead of me. I will be doing a great disservice to him, mistake, if I give this jewel, a gem, to mankind. So he thought very correctly, because man would be too engrossed in nature, worldly things, and he would forget God. So both would be losers. Look at the beautiful inversion. And then he says, rest in nature, not the God of nature. So I had better not bestow this precious gem upon him. Were I to bestow this jewel too, he will not bother about me at all. He would care little about worshipping me and spiritual enlightenment. So thought God. So he kept rest to himself. We come to the last stanza, fourth one. Yet let him keep the rest, but keep them with repining restlessness. Let him be rich and weary, and at least, if goodness lead him not, yet weariness may toss him to my breast. Here comes the pun upon the word rest. REST, rest means repose, as I told you before, relaxation, peace of mind, tranquility, etc., calm, quiet, etc. That is one meaning. And another meaning of rest is remaining things, the remainder. Let him keep the rest of the gifts, the remaining gifts, except rest. So there is a clever pun upon the word rest. Different meanings of rest are exploited here. God explains the reasoning behind his denying rest to man. Eternally he will be restless. He may be strong, beautiful, wise, happy, famous, rich, yet he suffers from repining restlessness. Look at the alliteration here. Let him keep the rest, but with a repining restlessness. The ra sound is repeated. Let him be rich and weary. Here you have a paradox. How can a person be rich as well as bored, rich and weary? Rich and weary is a paradoxical expression. So wearied, vexed, exhausted by worldly things, he would be tossed to my breast, said God to himself. Tossed, the verb toss is hurl. It means it's very rightly used here. It shows how much God misses man and how he wants to have man in his embrace. So very often goodness, if a man is supposed to lead a virtuous life and reach God. So that is the right way, but it doesn't happen always. Very often it doesn't happen at all. So at least vexation and exhaustion may toss man to my embrace. That's God's plan. God thought so, and that's the reason why we are restless despite so many pleasures and treasures. Here I am reminded of a very famous saying, KNOW, no, which plays with KNOW, no, and NO, no. These are homophones, as you all know. No God, no peace. KNOW, no. God, KNOW, no, peace. If you know God, if you have the knowledge of God, if you realize God, you will realize peace. P-E-A-C-E. Envo no God, envo no peace. If you don't worship God, you will not find any peace. Browning rightly says God is in his heaven and all is right with the world. So, meditating on God alone brings us peace of mind. Thus, the poet creates magic with his imagination here. He weaves a wonderful story which conveys the message to us that spiritual enlightenment, spiritual quest, catering to the spirit in us, too is essential. It alone brings us peace of mind. So thus God denying rest to man is a double blessing, a blessing in disguise. Man and God both are benefited from this win-win situation. Now let's talk about the pulley metaphor. Why is it titled the pulley? The pulley is a mechanical device to lift loads. We all know that. So here rest acts as the pulley to pull, to attract or lift humans to himself. God uses it that way. The poem is a beautiful exploration of the bond between God and man, the relationship between man and God. Wit and wordplay are the poet's hallmarks. The poem gradually builds up the tension through suspense and surprise. We wonder why God withheld rest. At the end, we realize it is to clasp man to his breast so that both should be gainers. So the poem leaves an indelible impression upon our minds. Every now and then we hark back to the poem because it resonates with us. That's all for now. See you soon with yet another ennobling poem. Till then, happy poetry reading.